Welcome, everybody, to BAMEOTUK podcast. This is our milestone 10th episode. Yes, today. And the topic we're going to go for this milestone 10th episode is Let's Talk Occupational Therapy in Social Care. We have a very experienced panel, and I will let them introduce themselves. So over to you guys. Shall I start with Yvonne, because she's at the top of my panel?
Hey, I'm Yvonne Olasunkanmi, and I'm an occupational therapist, manager working in social care, Brent.
And then Sherlyn.
Hi, I'm Sherlyn Graham. I work for Hertfordshire County Council. I work in adult care services, the older people's team.
And then Katy.
I'm Katy Simpson, Occupational Therapy Team Manager for Lancashire County Council.
Oliver.
Hello, yeah, my name's Oliver Miller. I'm an occupational therapist and I work for Greenwich Social Services.
Kalimah.
Hi, my name is Kalimah Ibrahiim. So I work in adult social care and also the adult prison social care team.
Anne-Marie.
Hi, my name's Anne-Marie and I work in social care as well.
My name is Mish, Ahmed-Landeryou, and I will be your host for today. So before we start our discussions, I would just like to introduce the topic. In the Royal College of Occupational Therapists document, Relieving the Pressure on Social Care, the Value of Occupational Therapy, it states that from the college's data, it indicates that despite making up 4% of the regulated workforce, occupational therapists address 35 to 45% of local authority referrals. I thought that was gigantic for such a small population. This demonstrates apparently that funding occupational therapy service delivers a significant return on investment. And I'm sure it does if the few are doing a lot of work. In this document, it also goes on to identify that in social care, the occupational therapists act at 3 levels. The first one is at a universal level, which is person-centeredness and informed choices. The next level is at a targeted level, which is removing barriers, and how this is delivered is contextualized to the person. And the third level is at a specialist level, working with particular populations and or focusing in on housing that is putting apparently the occupational lens on social justice at this point. So I thought that was really interesting from that document, and had much more information about occupational therapists in social care. And I'll put the link up when we publish this podcast. So the first question: how did you find out about occupational therapy? Who'd like to go first?
I don't mind. Yvonne. Hi. I found out about occupational therapies actually working as when I left college, I went to work as a care assistant in a residential home, and we had an OT coming in from social care actually on a weekly basis to do reminiscence, and that's the first time that I heard, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. So she told me about it, but I didn't know, I didn't know nothing about OT until then.
That's great. So you saw somebody and it just pricked your interest.
Yeah.
Sherlyn, what about you?
Yeah, I had a bit of a journey when it came to OT. My first degree was in business administration, and I was living with a lady who was doing OT at the time. And she told me a little bit about a course, but I don't remember the details and stuff like that. I think it's because I was doing business and she was doing like hers. I didn't really think much about it, but I left uni, got a job, and whilst I was applying for jobs, I did a temping job, which was in a day centre and it had occupational therapists in there. So I was there like as a receptionist for like 3 months. So I kind of knew a little bit more about occupational therapy, children's occupational therapy, and then nothing tweaked at that point. And then I went into car rental, and then I left car rental after about, I think it was 4 years. And then I didn't know what I wanted to do. And when I was younger, I used to want to be a doctor, but I thought I was getting on in age, and I thought, oh, okay, how can I do anything that's like a doctor? So long story short, I did a program called Prospects Planner, and it brought up loads of different like jobs, and GP and OT were like side by side, and I thought, oh, this looks very similar to OT, and that was literally how I became an OT. Like, really weird.
Wow. That was a convoluted journey, but you got there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it was there all the time, but I just didn't see it.
Definitely. Oliver, what about you?
So for me, I used to study music in college a long time ago now. And whilst at college, I kind of wasn't really too sure what I wanted to do, because I knew I didn't want to become a music teacher. And I kind of wanted to pursue music, but then I suppose as you get older, it becomes a little bit more difficult to sort of do the things that you might want to do. So for me, what I did was I was in the process of trying to find, not necessarily a career path, but I was trying to find a job with it that allowed me to work with children at the time, because I had quite a strong passion to work with young people, especially being that I'm born and raised in London, and there's a lot of difficulties and challenges that we go through, especially as young Black boys. So I wanted to have an opportunity to sort of reach out and work with young boys if possible. So in my process of looking around, I came across a job which was in pediatrics in occupational therapy. It was called an occupational therapy technical instructor at the time. And to be honest with you, I didn't know what occupational therapy was. My mum is like a trained, she was a nurse, but she was working in safeguarding, so she had a little bit of an idea of what it was. And I kind of, my mum was able to sort of she allowed me to sort of meet up with one of the OTs that she had worked with, where I'd done like a day's work experience. I kind of got a better understanding of what the job role is. I applied. I didn't get it the first time. And then I went back, done some more sort of work, and then I went back and I applied for it again, and then I got it. And then basically once I was in there, you learn as you're going along. So you're learning about what OT really is. And I'd say after about 4 years, one of the sort of senior OT, or she actually wasn't even an OT, she was a speech and language therapist, and she kind of oversaw all therapies, so physio, speech and language, and OT. And she kind of pulled me into a room. It's quite funny because I used to see her kind of like as my mum, the way that she used to sort of like deal with me. And she kind of just said, listen, like, why don't you try and pursue like becoming a qualified OT? And at the time, I didn't really think it was something I could do, because when it comes to sort of like academic stuff, it's never really been my strong point as such. I've always been quite a practical person. And although OT is very practical, there's still a process that you need to go through. And I just thought the whole uni thing was just all going to be a bit too much. But she kind of convinced me to go. I started and I finished. And that's where I am now. So yeah.
And Oliver's being modest. He's my ex-student, and he was a good student. Definitely. Kalimah.
Okay, so with me, it was different avenues. So first time, it was my sister actually. Well, sorry, I finished a degree previously, and I was working in a digital media unit, and I was deciding what I wanted to do. I was working in a school with children with learning disabilities in a secondary school. teaching them media skills and things, digital media skills. And also my sister, I was deciding what I wanted to do. And then my sister was telling me about OT. I didn't really know what it was, but there was also an OT in the school as well. And I spoke to her. And also at the same time, my grandmother was being discharged from hospital. And then she had an OT. And then, so it was like the 3 different avenues all at the same time. And then I did some research. And then I thought, oh, okay. And then I applied and I got the role and the post at Brunel at the time. And then that's my journey.
So in regards to myself, I did my first degree first, studied biomedical informatics. I then decided I'm not 100% sure if I want to be working in a lab setting in front of a computer. I wanted to be patient facing. And I studied like biomedical informatics at a medical school, one of the universities in London. From that, I thought, okay, I've done a degree. Let me have a look in regards to what else I can find. So I had a look in regards to I didn't want too much student loan debt. So I had a look in regards to what the NHS bursary could offer me. And I stumbled upon lots of allied healthcare professional positions. And from doing my research, I decided to pick on OT. And because my application was also late during the time when I was doing it, I actually went through clearing. And one of the members from BAMEOTUK actually interviewed me. It was Kian, who then was my personal tutor, coincidentally, at university. But I loved every moment of it, and it's something that I hadn't had researched, or if I hadn't have gone to do my first degree, I don't think I would have stumbled upon it. I think I probably would have gone down that normal path. But I'm ecstatic that I'm an occupational therapist. It's a healthcare profession, and it's something that I know that in years to come, I can turn around and say that I was an OT and I can still benefit people with my skills later on in life. That's my little story.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Thank you. My mic keeps going on and off, so I'm very sorry. I didn't get to introduce you. Katy, over to you.
So I went to university straight from college. So and my parents are Greek farmers, so are very practical people. So they were very much of, if you go to university, you must have a job at the end of it. So I only had a choice of teacher, nursing, radiography, OT, all these really practical university courses. There was not a chance I could go and do art or geography or something like that. So I looked at all these very practical courses and thought occupational therapy was the best fit for my creative elements, my so that's why I ended up being an occupational therapist, because I had very strict practical parents saying you must have a job at the end. At the age of 21, you must be earning your own money. But I thank them every day for that.
A lot of Afro-Caribbean family members, they're the same in regards to that. And my mum was definitely quite strict in regards to that as well. You go to university, go and get a profession and go and get a job. Yeah. Yeah, so it's really good. It's beneficial. It's benefited us, hasn't it?
Definitely, yeah.
But I also think, that Afro-Caribbean or people of ethnic minority, we also start, because I started off as an OT assistant, and through having the links with when I worked as a care assistant, I met the OT. I liked what she did, so then that encouraged me. I thought, right, I'm going to look for jobs, because I asked her what the training entailed, and I didn't have O levels or A levels as such. So I thought, okay, if I could get into doing as an OT assistant, and that's how I got the role within social care as an OT assistant, and kind of working. I worked for about seven years and as an OT assistant, and then my senior kept saying to me, Yvonne, you're such a good, OT assistant. You need to go and train. And I was like scared, like Oliver. I was thinking, oh, I don't think I could do a degree. No, I'll kind of stay. He said, no, you cannot, you can go up. Once you're qualified, you can do, sort of anything. So he kept pushing me. And then I said, okay, well, either do it and fail or do it. And I'm so glad that I did do it. And, because it's the best thing I've ever done. So.
And I think coming from that sort of assistant background, because I know all the way through university, I worked as a carer or a HIA or a support worker, because it was the only job I could get that filled the gaps between placements, and you could kind of pick up and drop hours. And I think sometimes coming from that background actually makes you amazing OTs, amazing managers, because you've been through that journey from the bottom, really, haven't you? So it's a massive journey to go through, and it definitely changes my practice even, and I do things now, and my own service wouldn't survive without our social care support officers and our assistants. They are the backbone of our service.
No, I definitely agree with that. Yeah.
So that's really interesting. So the things I got from that is the sort of you need to know about occupational therapy, be exposed to occupational therapy to be able to even consider it. It's not as seen or as public. So it's like having a relationship with it before, and then going into studying it, whether it be, like you said, Yvonne, through doing support work and then going into study.
And I was finding that usually when I was looking at professions, a lot of the common ones I would say people know about is nursing, social work. So then that's where you kind of get directed to, especially coming from, a Caribbean background. As well, it's nursing, if you're not a doctor, if you're not a lawyer, either failure or you go for something else.
But I think most, Caribbeans, Afro-Caribbeans, minority groups kind of sometimes come to OT at a later stage from a mature student, whereas you find, because I didn't know about OT when I was in school. I mean, that's years and years ago. But like Kate went straight from school, so she did her A levels and then went that way. But what I found, especially with the OTs are in social care, they tend to have worked like me as a support worker somewhere, OT assistant, and then they hear about and even Oliver's done the same thing, hear about OT, and then this is really good, and then they go the training route, unless you've got, like yourself, some of you got a degree already, and then you can go straight into it. But a lot of us has gone that route.
And it's that lack of knowledge, I think, with the allied health professions. I mean, physio is very common, obviously, radiology, but the other things I find is very difficult. So you have to come in contact with someone, like I said, or work as an assistant to be able to come across. And then you second degree or something, or working as an assistant.
I mean, I was just thinking about my journey when you're talking about that. It's a mixture of everything you've all said, because I had the pressure of trying to get into a course that would get me a job. So I started off in engineering, didn't like that. Then I went to medical physics, finished it, didn't like that. Then I went and did volunteering 5 to 6 days a week in a day centre that was full of occupational therapy support workers and one head occupational therapist. I really, really enjoyed that, but got more and more frustrated. And my boss, I didn't even think about studying occupational therapy, but my boss pushed and pushed, and so I did. I didn't enjoy my degree. I was like so distracted by all the politics and things that were going on at the time that I didn't really apply myself like I should have. Doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy occupational therapy. It was just the degree didn't suit my style of learning, coming from a very pure scientist background to be then in problem-based learning. It really did jar with my learning style. So that's why probably I didn't enjoy the actual degree, which was Brunel University. Love Brunel University, but didn't really work with my learning style. But as soon as I got into the job, my first job, I knew it was for me. I knew, definitely. So it's a bit of a bumpy ride, but yes, got there in the end. Yeah, I was very distractible, always got my eye on another project before finishing the last one. So question, shall we move on to question 2? That was really great. Thank you for that conversation. Why did you choose to work in social services as an occupational therapist? And what does the role include? Shall we go to Oliver first?
I'll be very honest. Yeah. In terms of my process of getting into social services, so essentially when I finished my OT degree, obviously I'd been working in pediatrics as an OT assistant. I think at that time for about, I think it was probably about 9 years. And obviously at that time I was a band 4 at the time, so it was like I was at the top of band 4. So for me, I'm not gonna lie, like I was like proper like demotivated to know that I had done this whole degree for 4 years, and essentially I was just gonna go up one pay scale. Like I'm not gonna lie, that hurt my heart. So I was looking and I was thinking, okay, cool, I'll be an OT, but I have to obviously find band 5 jobs. I looked around. I applied for 3 jobs, and I was grateful enough to get all 3 of them, but one of them was a social services job, and it was more money, which was a plus, but the other thing is that it provided me with a little bit more flexibility, because at the time I've had 2 children. So I come from an NHS where it's like you have to be in at a specific time, because admin have booked your assessment, and it was like nothing was in your sort of control, and you had to basically do what you had been told. And with social services, I like the fact that I was able to be a bit more flexible, but also have the ability to go out into the community and see people in their true place, which is in their home, as opposed to maybe in a clinic. Because sometimes I don't really like that, because you don't really get to see what the person's really experiencing, and obviously with like a clinic setting, it's very artificial, it's not very real. So I like that. So in terms of what does my role include, so at this moment in time, Kalimah will probably tell you, I just do loads of moving and handling. That's what it feels like at this moment in time. Lots of moving and handling assessments. I do obviously a lot of complex adaptations as well. Reviewing clients' care packages to make sure that they've got the appropriate type of care packages and the equipment in place. That's essentially, I mean, we don't, obviously I do major adaptations depending on what the client's needs are. But I find now I'm doing a lot more complex stuff, whether that's adaptations or moving. So it is, I qualified in 2017. So I've been there, well, this year will be approaching 4 years. So I feel like I've got my head around things quite well. And yeah, it's good. So yeah.
So it sounds like as you got more into the job, you got more different options in what you could do, and sort of moving away from the moving and handling, you kind of found different options in what you would like to work in and what you could work in, it sounds like.
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely find that I like to do sort of more complex adaptations. That's really my strong point. I mean, moving and handling, I do it, but it's not like a passion or a desire of mine. I've got to be honest. There's not many OTs in my team that enjoy moving and handling.
I'm shocked by that. I'm so passionate about manual handling. That's my fault. I'm passionate.
But yeah, no, for me, complex adaptations, for me, that's I really like that. That's just my thing. So yeah.
Yvonne, let's go to you because you're passionate about moving and handling.
Oh, right. Yeah. The questions again. So I chose to kind of stay after sort of, because being there as an OT assistant, I had the option once I qualified, on my last placements, which was in NHS, they said to me to apply for the rotation. But because obviously I was a mature student, I qualified in 2004. The pay in NHS was a lot lower than what I was getting just as an OT assistant. So for me, I thought, well, no, I've got responsibility. I've got a young child, so I'm not going to go into NHS. So I chose to stay in social care. And I think for me, it's the best thing that I've ever done, because I was able to then home in. Yes, like Oliver, I did. Major adaptations. I didn't actually enjoy major adaptations because I like to sort of get in there, solve the problem, and then, come out, go on to the next thing. So for me, manual handling, and actually, as an OT assistant, I was actually doing manual handling, although kind of shouldn't do it, and that what ignited my passion. So then the for me, staying in social care was that, I can continue with manual handling, and I like that short-term work, and then coming on and seeing what the issues are with clients. I mean, my role has changed a lot now from practicing OT, because I'm the lead OT and a service manager. So I manage a service area which includes social workers, care assessors, OTs, but I also the placement coordinator. So when students come, they kind of come via me and ensure that, and then I can then put them within what area of social services that we've had. So we've had quite a few students recently. And yeah, so yeah, I wouldn't change. I just love social care. So.
And is it us that have been burdening you with students? Is it
yes,
London South Bank University? Sorry,
the staff who's done who's become OTs through your London South Bank.
Sherlyn, over to you. What made you choose social services?
I didn't choose social services. Social services chose me. When I started OT, I only thought that OTs were in the hospital. So I was applying for NHS jobs. And then a lady that was working, temping in Hertfordshire County Council, she said, there's OT jobs going, apply. So I'd applied for one NHS job more locally to me. Shocking interview. It was just the worst interview ever. I literally sat there and said, I don't know, because I just didn't know what to say. So it was such a bad interview and it put me off for such a long time. And then I had another interview in NHS again. That interview was much better, felt more prepared. And then I came away feeling like, yep, I know what I'm talking about now. I can do interviews. So I went to this one, Hertfordshire, and the interview, I was a nervous wreck. They had me waiting for ages. I was sitting downstairs in the waiting room, like sitting there like, waiting. So when I got in there, I was like shaking and everything because I was so nervous. I hate interviews. And the following day, I had another interview at another hospital. And then the week after that, I had another interview at another hospital. So I did this interview and I thought it was terrible. And then I went to my next interview. I won't name this place where I went. But that interview was really good. I was proper confident. I was like, yep, I know everything. They spoke about soap notes, and I was like, yeah, I can do soap notes. And I sat there writing on my soap notes. I felt so good. I was like proper, like, I was so hyped about being there. I was like so excited. And then I think it was the day after, or a couple of days later, Hertfordshire called me and said, oh, we'd like to offer you the job. And I was like, okay, great. And then the place that I went to before, they also offered me a job. So I was like, oh, I'm really stuck. I didn't know what to do, because I was like, who do I choose? Who do I choose? And what actually made me kind of choose social services was I said to the lady, oh, I'm really stuck at the moment, like, because I'm quite open and I'm honest. And I said, I've been offered 2 jobs. I don't know what to do. And she was like, well, can you make a decision, because I've got other people to call? And I was like, sorry, like, so you don't need me, you don't want me then? I'm not that valuable. You just picked my name out of a hat and just said, yeah, let's give her a call. And it really put me off. And I just thought, okay. I said, no, it's fine. Don't worry. I won't take the job. And then that was it. It just really put me off. And I just thought, yeah. Anyway, so it was social services, and I actually cancelled the interview I had the next day, because I just thought next week, because I thought I can't do this interview thing again. There's no need. So yeah, that was it. So they kind of chose me, but I suppose I chose them because I was pushed in that direction. But in terms of the role that I do in social care, it's very much moving and handling, like Oliver said. Major, minor adaptations, functional assessments. I end up doing little bits of like socially sorts of work, like doing Care Act assessments or eligibility assessments for like care packages, day centres, sit-in services, just bits and pieces really. That's yeah. Did I say safeguardings as well? It's quite varied. I think when you're in social care, you end up doing a lot of bits and pieces, especially like where your managers are social workers as well. They'll just give you whatever. Because
don't you find that some OTs are off put by that, because in social care you do a lot more, whereas you see in hospitals it's not, they stick to the OT role, but in social care you're adding, and we found that OTs have left because they don't want to do the social work bits. But
you know what, I worked, like, my first year being there was hard, so I said, you know what, I'm not going nowhere, because I worked so hard to stay there. Like, it was such a difficult time. It was so, like, because I left uni, went straight in there, and it's like you're just left to do your work, and it's like I don't have to write an assessment. And like but the team I had was really supportive, but they were all social workers, so they supported me a lot. But like, they weren't giving me OT support because they weren't OT, so they didn't know how to support me. And to be fair, I didn't know what support I needed, because I don't know what this is, so it was really tough. And I thought, you know what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. I'm staying here, I'm not going anywhere. So I just carried on. And and that was it really. But the thing is, at the interview, actually, the lady that interviewed me, she said to me, I remember saying to her, I don't care where I work, I just want to be an OT. And I've just kept that with me. I don't actually care where I work. I just want to be an OT, because it's the value of OT that I'm passionate about. And I love old people. So, and when all the old people die, then I guess I'll give up, but they ain't going to die. So they're going to live long enough. So I'll be there forever.
Because that'll be us.
So you got snubbed, so you ended up in social.
Yeah, I properly got snubbed.
And it's their loss. Their loss for snubbing you. Their loss.
Totally.
You work with other OTs as well, Sherlyn?
Yeah, we've got one other OT in my team. She's on maternity at the moment. She came from the NHS actually, and she was my supervisor for a little while. But across, we have like 5 localities, and they've got like 2 OTs on each team working in different areas and stuff. So we've got a bit of support there. But yeah, it's just not within their team. The team is majority social workers and community care officers.
Well, look, you've got mentor and peer support here if you want it.
I know, it's amazing Amazing how different all the local authorities work, because we offer so much support. It's unbelievable. But like I say, we're now a very large team, but we offer weekly case reviews with all our staff. We offer obviously 6 weekly supervisions. There's we have OTs all in every service, but they all make sure that they all get together for coffee and chat once a week. So there's all sorts of exciting things happening from a support and supervision point of view, even though we don't have that principal OT. The OTs in post are OT managers from a clinical point of view. So you kind of do that with a sometimes you have your strategic hat on, and sometimes you've got your team manager hat on, rather than having somebody who's dedicated just for that supervision element, really. So it's just amazing, the difference. It's lovely talking to everybody, because you just get such an insight into how the other areas work, don't you?
Yeah, we've got a principal OT in our place, and she's really good. She's created like CPD group, book journal club and stuff like that. It's kind of withered out a lot, obviously, now with COVID and that. And we've got like a WhatsApp group with OTs in it, those that wanted to take part. So there is some support, but I think I'm so far along now. I think because the journey was a struggle, I've learned to be independent. I've just learned to just get on with things, and I know who to ask for what, and do you know what I mean? So, and sometimes I'm so busy, I don't take part in some of the CPT activities they've got going on. So I sometimes find that I don't engage as much, because I just think I'm just too busy. I've learned this already. If I need help, I'll reach out to a particular person. But it's so much more supportive now, because even when I got there, I don't think they had like I don't think the induction, there wasn't like a like proper induction. But now,
right,
like a newly qualified OT kind of induction and stuff like that. And they buddy you up with like an OT and stuff like that. And I just didn't feel that so much when I got there, and I felt like I really did feel like a fish out of water. But it's so much better now. I think if I went in now, I'd feel better about being there. But like I said, because it was so difficult, it's like my mum always says, anything worth having is not easy for you to get. So I just, that's kind of how I live by it, really.
I would say it was the same for me as well in social services. When I joined, it was me, and basically all the other OTs were like really, really, really experienced OTs. So and there was no real progression path for me as a newly qualified OT, and I kind of went in there and just had to find my way through. And I think that's probably where social services, from my experience, is very different to NHS, because NHS, they've got a lot of things in policy. There's a lot of things in place to support new students. And you'll find, especially like in things like in hospital, for example, on rotations, you'll have maybe like a cohort of about 5, 6, 7 band 5 newly qualified, so you're able to bounce off each other and learn and develop. Whereas in social services, I think definitely previously there was an expectation that you kind of need to be like a little bit like experienced before you get into the role, which is something that I think probably needs to change, because otherwise you're not able to sort of like birth people into social services, and you're basically relying on more experienced OTs to come in, and sometimes they may not want to do that. So it's about how can you reach out to, especially those that are in uni or those that are in their last year. How do you build like an OT service that encourages newly qualified people to sort of get on board? That's not
and we've done so much work around this because of that issue. We were finding that we couldn't recruit because we were wanting staff who were experienced, but then people wouldn't move from the NHS because they had the great mat leave and all that sort of stuff, and they were starting again when they came to social care. So we redesigned all our inductions. So we have all OTs coming on a 6-week induction. They have 2 weeks worth of social care academy, so they learn all about the social care elements as well. So we really invest in that support structure. Then, like I say, we offer a weekly case reviews to make sure that people aren't stuck on cases. So people have got a place to have a dedicated hour with a senior staff member to make sure that people are moving work on that is beneficial for the service users, but also from a OT point of view, you're learning, but you're also not feeling like you're completely stuck and not knowing what to do with a case. We have that 6 weekly supervisions, and then we have made a massive effort to buy in any training that, because a lot of the training within social care is social work based, so we buy in quite a lot of OT specific training if we haven't got time to do it in-house, but we bespoke create that training rather than buy off the shelf as well. So we've really invested in our OT staff, because then they're essentially at the moment within our organisation, they're the front line of our offer for every single service that's a brand new service that's being developed. It's always, what can OT do there? What can we put OT on? So it's really exciting when, and it does feel like right now we've got it right. I recruited 5 brand new qualified OTs into service right in the middle of COVID last year, and all went through that induction process through COVID. So we altered things as well. But they're all settled, they're all happy, and having that new those new brains in the team, because I have some staff who've been qualified 35 years, but having those new brains is absolutely essential to the progression of what social care is becoming. It's so important, but it only works when you put so much work into it, and it has literally been my I've lived and breathed it for 2 years. So, but I'm definitely getting the benefits of it now.
I can see that passion coming through about you making sure that your occupational therapy staff have, in a way, their equity, what they need to do their job. And that sounds like, resources. That
definitely. So we have social care support officers who are essentially equivalent of a TI in health services. We have those trying to get those onto OT apprenticeships, and then we have our occupational therapists that we recruit a lot internally into senior OT posts. So we do that growth within and create that whole industry. So we steal staff from social work and turn them into OT assistant. We've done all sorts to really bump up our OT resource in a world that is, there's so many jobs out there. We have to be competitive to say, actually, it's worth coming to us, come to us, we can look after you, we can offer you that flexibility. It's so important, isn't it, that we're out there and being competitive with health.
I think you do have to grow your own, because that's what we've done. I mean, a lot of our OT assistants have done their training and become OTs, and now we're looking, because we've now started the OT apprenticeship. We're getting unqualified staff who were thinking about, because we had one who qualified, and Mish would know her, I think last year. She tried to go into social work, and then we kind of talked to her and say no OT, and she loved what we did. So then she's now a qualified OT. So you can get social workers to kind of see the benefits and how amazing OT is, and then they do decide, instead of being a social work assistant or something, I'll do the training and become an OT.
But having that background with all that social care knowledge is absolutely invaluable as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, we also do 6 weeks CPD as well, and we have a reflective practice every 8 weeks as well, so people can bring their cases, and if they have issues and they want to talk things through. I mean, one of the things for where I work, though, what we've done, because traditionally OTs are a smaller workforce in social care, so we've got an OT team still, and because they were looking through transformation, and one of the things that a lot of OT said they were going to leave because they were put in like 2 in one team, 2 here, 2 there, and OTs don't want to work like that. They like that, that they could get that peer support, and being an OT environments. So luckily for us, we've still got, you know, an OT team where, and when people do come, and we've had locums for years and years and years, that, you know, they don't want to go because they can say, yeah, it's not integrated. We don't have an integrated service as such.
We always say we're small but mighty.
Yes.
Because
That's a good way to put it, I think. Anne-Marie, would you like to tell us about why you chose social services, occupational therapy, and what is your role currently in that?
So initially I was working in the NHS, and I had gone round and worked in like neuro, orthopedics and things like that. And I decided to go locum in. So I went locum in. I went in the NHS for locum in for a little bit. And then the agency said, oh, look, there's a social services position. Would you like to take it? So I said, okay, well, I've never really worked at social services, but I'll try. And then I was like, okay. Went in, was successful with the interview, and I proceeded. And coincidentally, it's the social services that I started off as a locum. It was so flexible in regards to my life-work balance, and by that time I'd had several children. So it was nice to be able to take them to school, because it was round the corner from the house. I was able to take them to school, pick them up from school, and do a lot of my work as well. So it worked really well around my life. So I decided to go permanent, and yeah, I've loved it ever since.
Wow, thank you. That I think that there's something that Oliver and yourself said about that need for flexibility around family, to be able to have a career, but also be able to do the life things that you need to do that are important. And that was something that was there for you in going into social care for occupational therapy. So that's an important selling point, I guess, you know, for going into social care, occupational therapy. Kalimah, over to you, same question.
Okay, so when I qualified, I had a graduation ceremony on the Friday, and I started an NHS post on the Monday. So and I went in as a band 5.
That doesn't surprise me.
I went in as a band 5, and then I stayed at the trust for nearly 5 years. And I worked in a range of community services, community rehab, inpatient rehab, you know, hospital wards and things. I really liked moving and handling. That was my passion. And I was finding, and in my service, in my NHS service, I was the moving and handling trainer for the service. And I used to get involved with lots of complex moving and handling. And when I was doing lots of discharge planning and things like that, you had to work alongside the social care OTs. And obviously, you know, for more long term, and you know, the usual things, you know, putting in care packages and that sort of things from an OT point of view, from a hospital, from an NHS point of view. And then after that, I went to a mental health trust, and I worked with older adults with dementia and challenging behaviour. And then I saw a post come up in a local authority it was a newly created post for a moving and handling role, which I loved. And it was to do a single-handed care, work in a service, or help develop a project or a service for single-handed care. So looking at looking at all the care packages and seeing what you can reduce, and, you know, provide lots of training and things like that. So I worked there for a while. Oliver was also in the same team, but I was working purely moving and handling, so I didn't do any of some of the complex adaptations that Oliver did. So I worked there, and then a role came up in the prisons in the same borough. So it was a social care role within the prisons, and there was some work to do there. So looking at obviously moving and handling in prisons, and also some other, you know, bits of equipment and adaptations and things like that. Then I went over to the prison social care team after being in that moving and handling service. And so I've been at the prison social care team since. Very, very different from the community. Lots of challenges. Obviously, people think that it's forensic OT, mental health, but it's not. It's purely social care within the prison setting as per the Care Act. So lots of challenges in terms of, environment, space, and all the different things that you would think of. So you're using all of your skills, what you've learned, along the way in the NHS, plus obviously in social care as well. And you're bringing it together and working with this very complex group.
I found it was quite easy to go from NHS to social services, where you're able to, somebody comes with you with a condition, and then you say, right, I've seen this condition within the NHS, and then I can work with them in their own home setting, and it's beneficial to yourself as well and to the client when they're in their own home setting, and you're able to say, right, I'm going to use the skills that I've learned in the NHS, and I'm going to adapt it here and think about the things, the difficulties and things like that. I think you learn a lot also when you're in social services, because there's different skills where in the NHS we don't do major adaptations. We're not measuring for stair rails, we're not measuring for stair lifts and wet rooms and things like that. And so we're learning about lots of different things like housing regulations, and we're actually putting into effect the Care Act. And so we get to learn more like a legal aspect of things like the Mental Capacity Act, and we actually put it into place. So I liked my time in social services and the experience and the knowledge that it's actually been able to give me.
I think you're also, empowering the client, because a client service user in hospitals, they tend to be, that they're getting over an illness, but in their own home, it's their home. So we're coming into them. So I think they're totally different as they would be, in hospital. So, because we're coming to them and they know what they want usually, and, but in hospital, they're sick, they want to get it better, they want to get home. You're seeing them totally different.
Yeah, we do see a total different person. The majority of the time, the referrals come through. Yeah, they know what they want. They know if they want that wet room or that downstairs toilet. Yeah, so they're able to explain and tell you their difficulty that they're experiencing within their own home setting. Whereas in the NHS, it was totally different. We were sort of asking them questions to gather whether or not they would actually find difficulty in their own home settings. Yeah.
Well, I'm actually glad that I went to the NHS first, because I think having that support, especially when you're newly qualified, working with the MDT, you're working with obviously nurses, your doctors, physios, you're working with lots of different obviously health professionals, and then taking that knowledge. So when you are on your own in someone's home, you're able to look in that presentation, and I just found it consolidated lots of my knowledge, and it enabled me to provide a better treatment for the clients in the community. And also when you're working obviously with moving and handling or long-term care packages, you are seeing that person more. And I suppose in the NHS, by the time the person's discharged, you're handed over to the community services. But when you are with social care, sometimes they're on your caseload. Even if you've closed the case, you might reopen it a year later, or if they're having a care package, they'll have a yearly review. So you might, obviously, it might be you if you're still in that same service and you're seeing that person, you can see their progression or deterioration over time as well. And also,
I always think one of the frightening things about it is that often when people come to social care, we're the end of the line. There's nowhere else to send those people. Once they've come to us, all the health services have been involved. And so even though it's frightening, I really like the fact that actually these people have gone through all these different services who haven't been able to help them, and then they come to us and we're able to fix it. And that's a massive thing for us, isn't it? And there isn't often anywhere else for people to go after they've got to social care, if that makes sense. And we don't say no, do we? We don't have the same criteria around, that person's not fit for rehab, or all these sorts of things that are kind of bandied around. Once it's come to social care, you have to find a way for that person to be able to live at home and with a solution that works for them.
And that's also looking at specialist equipment. You're getting reps in. There's new products on the market. So if you've got a particular client with a particular need, you can get, and we haven't got the standard equipment, you can get reps in and seeing what else, how you can support that client to live independently. So I think, you know, it's social services is amazing because you've got them long term.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think in the prisons as well, you're getting involved in lots of legal aspects. So, you know, parole board, probation. You're also making recommendations on how that person's needs can be met in the community if they have health and social care needs. And you're also, you know, recommending accommodation, you know, obviously adaptations and things as well. So you're working with the person through their journey as well, or even a transfer to another prison if they haven't got the right support within the environment that they're in. So I think me having the experience of working in your traditional, I would say traditional OT social care role in the homes, and then being able to, you know, use those transferable skills as well from the NHS, from community social care to the prison service. I think for me, that's been a very good transition for me and really enhanced my knowledge. And I'm able to, you know, I think it's, you know, the challenges, you're constantly obviously troubleshooting all the time, always trying to find a solution. And I think with the prison as well, you can order specialist equipment, but then there's a security element as well. Can it be dismantled? You know, is it, you know, can it be used as weapons and all these other things that you're having to think about? You know, if it's a long-handled reacher, you know, it's something so small that you might think in the community, having really thinking long-term about that piece of equipment, going through security clearances and everything like that. So it's a fairly new role. And there is no job description really. I think I'm doing things that's not even in my job description because there isn't a job description for it, because it's such a new role, having social care within the prison setting since the Care Act. Yeah.
Go on.
Oh no. I was just gonna go just going back to Katy's point about us being the end of the line, and I think although it's a good thing, sometimes it can be quite challenging in the sense that you find that people want to just, or sometimes people make self-referrals to go straight from wherever they are straight to the end of the line.
Yeah.
And lots of things in between that they haven't utilized, whether that's rehab or whatever it is, because maybe, this might sound bad, but maybe the next door neighbour's got a level access shower, so I would as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But I think one of the good things though with that though is, you know, people living longer. So your older person who may have dementia, I mean, ROTs are actually doing a mental capacity assessments in terms of issuing equipment. So where someone, you know, an older person doesn't have the capacity, they're doing that. So I think there's a lot more now, because as we say that traditionally, you know, they think it's just manual handling, adaptations or housing, but there's a lot more to social care OTs.
Yeah.
Best interest assessments, mental capacity assessments, obviously getting involved with safeguarding and things. Yeah, so there's a lot more. And also taking on some of that role that maybe traditionally social workers might have done in the past as well.
Yeah, I mean, we have OTs in care home improvement services to ensure that we prevent people getting to that level of safeguarding when you're kind of playing catch up constantly. We do a lot of work around court of protection. We do discharge to assess, there's reablement. We have enablement, which is teaching people with learning disability and autism new skills. We have front door learning disability and autism assessment service. So everybody who has a diagnosis of learning disability or autism and wants a care package, get OT assessment first, because you often find that they've come through that process of having a lot of family support around them, and you've got perhaps mum and dad saying, oh no, they can't brush their teeth, but actually if you put that functional based assessment in with OT, you find that people can do things rather than having social worker in at that front assessment first. They'll often do a chat assessment essentially rather than an actual functional observed assessment. So we found that's massive for us. We do a lot around specialist seating. We have OTs covering our 5 prisons in our area as well. And then and that's just, they're all the bits around that equipment and adaptation stuff that we have 150 referrals a day coming in. So the volume is huge, but actually all these different areas are so exciting, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. I have no doubt in the next 12 months, Lancashire will be doing some work within the transition services, because what we found is that the kids coming into adult services, we're getting them too late, so we want to get them sooner. So we manage that process through that transition, and that's part of the Care Act as well. So that will come to us. So it's really exciting, all these different areas of OT, and it isn't just the toilet seat anymore.
So, okay, so this is getting good and exciting, lots of different things. So the thing I'm getting from this is that, it's people in their natural habitat. So of course, there's going to be many different things that occupational therapists in social care will have to deal with that's coming to them. And I think one of the things, Oliver, you were saying is that sometimes they come straight to the end. So then you have to do some educating or then re-refer somewhere else maybe for rehab. So there's that other extra step. It's not just now I've got to see and look after you in your home and see what you're doing in your home. Also then thinking in a more creative and problem-solving way as to, it's not really about the equipment. It might be, as you were saying, Oliver, that they need rehab or something else rather than straight to the end point, as Katy was saying, coming straight to the end point. So that sounds like there's a lot of creativity there. It's not just bog standard, like you need a bit of equipment, you need your house adapted. There is this whole other ball game of creativity happening there, and because of that creativity there, Katy, you're saying there's lots of other options coming forward for occupational therapists.
And to me, I think us as occupational therapists, equipment is such a tiny part of our toolkit, and that's what it is. There's so much more around those outcomes. An assessment, our toolkit is brimming full of, whether it's there's all sorts of different outcomes, and equipment is just one element of that, isn't it?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm always really conscious of making sure I'm not disabling people as opposed to enabling them. And I think that's when I go out to do an assessment, that's one of the things that's at the forefront of my mind, because sometimes it's easy. It's easy for me to do a level access shower. It's easy for me to give you a through floor. It's easy to do all of these things. But what is difficult sometimes is trying to explain to a client that actually, you know what, maybe if you was to do some rehab, you could get yourself back to where you was before, or you see what I'm saying? And I think sometimes there's a lot to it, because it's about sometimes people's motivations, or it could be social issues, family, and all kinds of things that may be stopping that person from wanting to engage in the appropriate intervention. But I definitely see that as my role as well, is to make sure that clients are getting what they need as opposed to what they want.
Yeah.
That's a great way of putting it. It's a great way of putting it.
It's multifaceted as well, and just to unpick everything, you can spend a long time with one client just to unpick and find out what the actual issues are. But I do find that you would hold cases longer within social care as compared to obviously an acute setting, which is understandable. But then you're obviously seeing that client's progression, or like I said before, their deterioration as well, and try to, you probably get to maybe learn more about the person. You have more time, I would say. I
definitely echo what Oliver's saying, because we always say that in social care, it's about the need instead of want, because they think that they're, clients, they're in their own environment. They may come with a shopping list and say, I want this, but then when the assessment comes, then actually it's not, what you want, is what the need is. And as Oliver said, it may be rehab, and you're not giving them, that stair lift, because actually they can, if we get physio in to work on stairs, that they can actually do the stairs and still be independent.
Yeah, I think it's so, I've always said it to myself, and when I was in clinical, and I say it to students, there is this emancipatory quality of occupational therapy about freeing up the person through identifying their potential and actually then them actualizing that potential. So yes, doing climbing the stairs to get to the bedroom is so important, because it then frees them up from being less mobile, and which then can lead to a whole other health problem. So I do think there's that liberating, enhancing quality of being an occupational therapist in social care, because you've got the tools to access to enable a person to be free of some of those shackles that have been holding them back. And I'm certainly getting that feeling from this conversation. It's given me goosebumps at the passion that there is in social care, occupational therapy.
And you can the times that you can think of. I can think of a lady that I supported. She had a spinal injury and she was pregnant with twins, and she went from being able to transfer to not being able to transfer because her point of gravity had changed, basically, and supporting her through that. And then on top of it, social the child protection were getting involved, and because of a disability, and that was the only reason they were getting involved, which was just nonsense essentially. But people were panicking for this lady who was, her needs were changing and she was dealing with a pregnancy, and just having OT support in to be able to recenter everything that was going on around her and saying, actually, this lady is completely capable. There is no reason for everybody to be jumping up and down and panicking. Let's just calm down, take one step at a time, and we'll get to an outcome for this person. And we changed that lady's life. There's no doubt about it. And that's daily in social care.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. Thank you so much. But then, if you're so good in social care, occupational therapy, why don't we hear about it as much? That's my next question. Why do we hear more about the health side of occupational therapy and less about the social care side? Or maybe it's me that I don't hear about it. Maybe it is happening.
I think it's more research. A lot of when you're in the NHS, a lot of it is, research led. They encourage you to do research projects and things like that. And obviously working with the wider MDT as well, who are also health professionals. So I've been involved in research with, in services and service improvement with, nurses and things like that as well, and physios. So, but when I find that when I went to social care, there wasn't any of that. There wasn't any, journal clubs. There wasn't any, I didn't find any of that. So, and I find that sometimes in social care, people stay for longer as well. In the NHS, obviously, people stay for long. They move around to different services and things like that. But I mean, I know a person who, was there for 35 years and they're quite happy. It's what you know as well. So I think it's more research based. I think maybe if there's more research in social care and it's more obviously OT led from the social care route, then you probably hear more about it.
I do think also traditionally, people, once you qualify, most people think you need to go into NHS to do your rotation because, social care doesn't have, we're trying to develop our own rotation within social care, but traditionally, if you go into NHS, you'll be a band 5, you'll do your rotation, and then you decide, you can decide where you want to go, whether you stick with NHS and go to a band 6. So there's more, I think, career progression within NHS. So that's why people, students, once they're newly qualified, they go to NHS. But I think now social care is changing to show that new grads can come in, because we've done a whole induction and for new grads, so they get the experience, and we're trying to develop, I'm trying to develop as a lead a rotation within children's services, the front door, our duty team, so you can have the experience in different areas within social care. And I think traditionally, when I first started out, there wasn't that, so you had to be more experienced to be in social services. And I think in the hospital, in NHS, you only did, your workload is quite narrow, it's not as wide as we're saying within social care, so people wanted that protection, I think, first, and then decide to go.
I found as well, when I was a student and I had my placements, and my educators always said, go to band 5 first in the NHS, get your experience, and then if you want to branch out. I didn't have a social care placement as well, so I didn't have anything to compare it to. So when I graduated, I just went with what I know, your traditional, band 5 role within the NHS, because that's what I knew and that's what I was comfortable with going into. But then people I've known who've had social care placements, some of them had gone straight into social care post qualification. But I didn't have the option. I didn't really know what to expect and things. And I wanted, that hospital experience, that kind of NHS trust experience. I mean, being in London, there's lots of options with lots of acute trusts and things like that, lots of research that comes out of those trusts. So I kind of wanted to go to that sort of role because that's what I knew and I was more comfortable doing that. But I think reflecting, if I had a social care placement, I may have gone into social care straight after. Who knows? You never know, but hey.
For me, I definitely feel like social care in years gone by has been more sort of like social work led. And there's always been a heavy emphasis on social workers and what they can bring. However, I think more recently, I would say OT and the role of OT has emerged a lot more within social care. And I think even still, there's still it's still not where it needs to be. So I think you will find there's a lot of different boroughs, and just by speaking to some of you guys, I can see already that you guys are trying to put things in place. But NHS already have a lot of them things in place already. So I feel like in social care, we're definitely a little bit more behind in terms of like developing new OTs. But also it's just things like, as Kalimah was saying, you're definitely encouraged more to go into the NHS as a band 5. I found on my journey, because there's an expectation that you have a lot more support. You can go through all of these different things to help progress yourself, whereas in social care it isn't, where it may be in 1 or 2 or 3 different boroughs, collectively it's not completely there. And you just look at it, even things like branding. I mean, the NHS, you look at the logo, it's massive, people know what it is. Your whatever social care, whatever it is, it's going to be very small in comparison to the whole of the NHS. So even little things like that will impact on people feeling safe as a newly qualified OT and as an OT in general to go into that. And I always feel like, I don't know why, but I always feel like in terms of like the NHS and social care, there is a bit of a gap there.
Yes, I think going from social care to the NHS might be a bit of a challenge as well. But I think maybe in terms of the curriculum as well, in the lectures, I think if students know about social care, because to be honest with you, I remember my course, I didn't know anything about social care. We always spoke about the NHS. The majority of us had NHS placements. I know some did have social care placements in some local authorities, but it was a very, very small number. Obviously, it was a large cohort at that time. I'm not sure what the numbers are now. So,
I think you learn
more education around social care from the universities, bringing in maybe guest lecturers and things like that to talk about OT within the social care setting and like case studies and what you actually do. Because partly when I was a band 5 and I would work with discharge planning with social care OTs, I'm like, what do you do? And then I remember going with her, one of the OTs, and she was showing me, what she does for the bathroom and things like that. So we were both working with the same patient. Mine was from a rehab perspective, and she was also doing the adaptation at the same time. So we were working together. And then I had a bit more of an idea about what you do. But then that was me being just inquisitive. It wasn't, obviously, as a student, you don't want it laid out on the table. You have to do your own research. But I think having some guidance of where to go, what to look for, who to speak to, I think would be a very good progression into social care. Obviously, if because I know lots of local authorities really struggle with getting social care OT, especially newly qualified as well. And I've heard conversations when people have gone to apply newly qualified roles, even if it's an entry level role in a local authority, said, you don't have enough experience. They wanted someone with more social care experience. They might not have just very minimal as a band 5 within the NHS. So just having that transitions, it's very difficult, and it should be integrated because it's one patient or one client, but it's not. It's very much your health, your social care, stay in your corner. That's my experience, and that's how I feel. They're like, oh, you're that side now, stay over there. It's very much divided.
I'm going to go to Anne-Marie and then Sherlyn.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you, Kalimah, in regards to that. But I was wondering also if people within the NHS felt that they had more opportunity in the NHS. There's more things to go around. So you've got elective orthopedics, you've got the trauma team, you've got neuro rehab, and you've got the community setting that they feel that they're getting a little taste of social services in the community. They're in people's homes, but they're rehabbing them and things like that. And whether or not they're a little scared in regards that if we go into social services, are we actually going to be able to come out? And are we going to be able to go back into the NHS? Are they going to see us as having those transferable skills? Are they going to say that we're no longer doing like the soap notes or writing things a little bit different and things like that?
I was going to say that I actually think it's harder working in social care, because what I've found is that some of our NHS colleagues, they're quite risk averse, and when we're looking for people to be at home and remain at home, because we'll have referrals saying someone needs to be in a nursing home, but actually when the OT's gone out there and looking at the environment, looking at the individual, their condition, all of those things are taken into account. We're coming out with, no, actually, they can remain in their own home. What can we do to enable them to remain in their own home? So I think, we have to think wider. And then when you're in NHS, you're narrowing, because you may be in acute services and you're only dealing with that issue, or you're in orthopedics or discharge or whatever it is, but it's quite narrow in compared to social care. So I think actually we're wider and it's harder. And I think, go on, Kate.
I completely agree with you, Yvonne. And a really great example of that is we've spent the last 12 months moving people who were discharged into COVID beds through health funding and then left there for 6-12 months. And we've gone through and moved every single one of those people, or I'd say 95% of those people out back into their own homes. And they were all put there because of risk averseness.
That's right.
So the work that's been created, and I think the other thing that we've already touched on is that often the NHS services pass things to us when they don't know what else to do with it. And so that's when we get those people. So I completely agree with you, Yvonne. I think it is the most complex type of work that you can deal with in social care. And I'm not talking about that bit of a stair lift or things like that. No. It's the assessment process that you're putting in place. It's not the outcomes. The outcome is the easy bit. It's the assessment process that you go through.
Yeah. I mean, we're looking at, I had one, Anne-Marie, I had one issue where we were looking at single-handed care, and traditionally the NHS was saying, oh, you need 2 to use a hoist. And I was saying, actually, you don't. It's about the assessment and about the risk. And they said, oh, we're told you have to have 2 people. And I said, you don't have to have 2 people. It doesn't say that. It says, risk assess. So it's from your assessment it determines. So I think we're wider in our thinking and
so
enabling.
Much wider. At the moment we've got an issue that our hospital trusts won't provide any moving and handling equipment in for anybody who's on a direct payment carer. So they all come to us at the moment because they've decided all of a sudden that that's too risky for them. So I think people are under so much pressure in every service that, it's just bizarre what's happening at the moment. But what is always there is social care will always pick up the pieces. And so you deal with the most complex work.
I think that's the best thing in regards to it. And for us to be here and talking about it, because then it highlights that, do you know what, we do have those transferable skills.
Definitely.
It shouldn't be something that we're scared of going into, because if we do say, for instance, we do want to go back into the NHS, we are able to do that because we have transferable skills. But even saying that, social services, if you want to learn, is a place to be. Sorry, Sherlyn, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that from my experience, I initially only thought that OTs, like I said before, OTs were only in the NHS. I didn't know they were anywhere else. So I actually got into social care accidentally. And I think like Oliver said, I think it's a case that it's like social care, the clues in the title, isn't it? It's social, so you'll find a lot of social workers there, so you just kind of don't put social workers and OTs together. You just that's just my kind of interpretation of it, really. So I don't think we hear so much about OTs being in social care, social services, because we probably, I don't know how many there are in social services. You probably find there's a lot more in the NHS than there are in social services anyway. So I suppose it's just a majority thing, really. Obviously, I agree with all of what you've said already, but why don't we hear so much? Our presence, social work takes over. When you're in social care, social work takes over. You know, when you're an occupational therapist in social care, you get called an occupational health nurse, or you get called a nurse. You're not even a therapist, you're just something else. Or you're the social worker as well, you know, because you work for social services. So it's just not very clear. And I think it's been it's a long-standing thing, isn't it, where we're always trying to prove ourselves, having to tell people what the value of OT is, you know. Why do we have to do that? Is it because there is a lack of research? Is it because every other profession is well known over occupational therapy, even though occupational therapy has been around a long time? It's almost like it's that kind of made up profession that just came from somewhere at some point, you know. But yeah, no, that's my view on it.
Yeah.
So Sherlyn, but going
103 years we've been around, 103 years. And I'm going to go back to what Oliver said. It's about branding. Wherever you are, whichever social care services you're in, it's about how you brand yourself, how you promote yourself, and who you use as your allies if you're a much smaller group to help you promote yourself. I mean,
Yeah,
you've got 100, but you've got 2, isn't it, Sherlyn, in your little place? You've got 2 where you are. So it's about that difference and how you brand yourself and how you sell yourself. People do know about occupational therapy, and one of my
yeah.
is don't say OT. Don't say OT. Say
So yes, occupational therapy. I was just going to ask Sherlyn, so you obviously you had placements in the NHS.
I had a placement in NHS. So my first placement was in a day centre. That was a social services day centre. My second one was in another day centre. That was the Mind in Harrow. That was a mental health placement. And then my third one was a hospital placement, which was my favourite because that's what I thought OT was all about. Because all the other ones were like group work. And I was like, well, how's this OT? Like, this is just sitting in a group doing stuff. It didn't seem very meaningful, but you might have been to them people because obviously they wanted to attend the group. But that was just a part of OT that I'd never really thought about. And I think I'm quite blinkered when it comes to the work, because if I know I'm going out to do, say, for example, a grab rail, I'm not then going to be talking about you going to a day centre because you want a grab rail. You know, so sometimes I can be a bit blinkered about things. So I wasn't thinking about the holistic side of being an OT and what that meant. So how that fitted in with the data. And I know now, obviously, group dynamics and all that sort of stuff. And then my last placement was a charity called Kids Company with that lady. I can't remember what her name is. Camilla. She had a really long surname. And that was a kind of role emerging OT placement. So again, it was a bit, you know, so really the only one that was really like straight down the line that I got was the NHS one in the hospital, because it was, you know, just it was kind of like structured. I knew exactly what I was doing all through the day, you know, even though my patients varied, you know, it was just very structured. I didn't have to think about anything else other than what I was going to do on the ward. So yeah.
I think that's why it's important to have leads within social care to promote, you know, occupational therapists, because we are a smaller workforce in comparison to social work. And
yeah, Yeah, I agree. And I bet there's not a month goes by that I'm not at one of our local universities doing something really promoting social care OT in our area, because we're very passionate about making sure that Lancashire is the best place to live and work, and that all comes as part of the university, and it comes as part of the community that we're in, living and working. But I think what's really interesting for us is what we found is every single time I interview newly qualified OTs, and I always ask about social legislation that links into occupational therapy within social care, and they can never get that question right. So that again comes back to universities to make sure they'll spout the nice guidelines and all sorts of things like that at me, but they'll never talk about the Care Act, they'll never talk about housing legislation. So again, it comes to that grassroots at university as well. So to consider social care when they're teaching the NHS legislation as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I can say that we do at London South Kent University. We do.
Good.
We do. I'm going to move on to the last question. Otherwise, you are not going to get dinner tonight. I can see there's a lot more to talk about here. But I think I'm going to split you into two groups. So if I get Oliver, Sherlyn, and Yvonne to just answer this question, which is what makes you proud to be an occupational therapist, and where do you see yourself in a year's time in the profession? And then Katy and Kalimah and Anne-Marie, if you could give me some ending thoughts to really promote occupational therapy in social care. So let's start with Sherlyn.
This is quite easy, actually. So the question was, where am I going to be in a year? Or
sorry, why are you proud to be?
Sorry.
To be a social care occupationalist, and where do you want to be in a year's time?
I'm proud to be a social work occupational therapist because I love giving back. I love enabling people. I love old people. I love working with old people. It makes me proud because I cherish older people simply because of the life that they've lived, the stories that they can tell, the journeys that they have, the quality of life, the quality that they can bring to life, and to know that I've enabled someone that's really, really old to just do something that might be so simple but so rewarding for them or so meaningful for them means a lot to me. And I'm proud just for that fact, really. I just really love my job, and I really love what I do, working with people and just making a difference in their lives, really. I just love that I can do that. I don't know, I suppose I should be proud of it, really, and that I've gone through whatever I've gone through to have those skills and been resilient and stuck at it and not just given up at the first hurdle. So I'm proud of myself because of that. And I think in a year's time, I'll still be chilling right here. And I'm a practice educator, so I'll be taking students. So I don't know how many students I'll be taking in the next year. So I'll be promoting OT in that way, and I'll be all over Twitter and all that lovely stuff about OT promotions. So yeah.
I suppose what makes me proud is that I'm in a profession where I actually have the ability to change people's lives. And I think that is, for me, is a really key thing because I've got lots of friends who work in different walks of life, but they don't truly have the ability to make change and change people's lives. They might be changing their own lives via finances, but they ain't actually changing the life of other people. And that makes me proud, and especially as a social care OT, being able to enable someone to not only live in their home but be more comfortable in their home, for me, is very, very rewarding as well. Because, you know, especially growing up in a Caribbean household, you know, the home is a very special place. It's a very, very special place. And as someone's condition may deteriorate, or if someone has like a big impact or something that happens in their life, sometimes home isn't what it used to be because of the environment, and the fact that we're able to go in, assess people, and adapt someone's environment so that they're able to continue those memories and continue to live in a safe place. For me, that's I'm really proud of that. And in terms of where I see myself in a year's time, I don't know, man. I think for me, I take one day at a time. I definitely want to just continue to consolidate my learning, what I've been doing over the last sort of 4 years or so, and just see where the wind blows, man. See where the wind blows, and wherever that is, that's where I'll need to be. So yeah.
Thank you, love that. Yvonne?
Makes me proud to be an OT, because from where I started, so to now to be the lead for my borough and promote OT, support junior staff to become OTs that if they're unqualified, but also give back. And I love to see that. When I was in clinical practice and not manager, that seeing the difference that I made to someone's lives by whether it's adaptation or my passion manual handling. I mean, I also do now is train our care providers on manual handling, so to support our clients. So that gives me, joy and passion that I'm an occupational therapist. Where I see myself in a year's time, hopefully in 2 weeks, I'm going for an interview as the head of service within my organisation. So I'm hoping that I'm going to get that role, and I'll be the first, because traditionally all heads of services traditionally are social workers or others. So if I get this role, I'll be the first within my borough anyway, occupational therapist that's a head of service. So I'll let you lot know in 2 weeks' time when I go to interview if I get it.
Wow. You kept that hidden. Anne-Marie, so your question is, yes, promote.
I'll definitely encourage people to go into social services and OT, to definitely to learn in regards to the experience that they'll get and to the different cases that they'll see, and the legal aspect and the learning from there that they'll pick up and be able to utilize in other services. And social services is not just about the major adaptations. There's other different teams. There's we've been talking about, there's reablement teams, there's discharge to assess, and different pathways and things like that. So you don't just have to sit on a team on one place. You can go around, and so in a way there is there's more learning to be learned, to be engaged in.
Thank you. Kalimah?
Yeah, so to promote, so I would say as well, when I speak to students, I always tell them about social care. And I think it needs to come obviously from the university as well, to kind of promote that social care aspect as well. And I think it should be, well, obviously it's good to have the rotations around, so to let students know that there is actual rotations in local authorities, you can actually know what to expect. So I think for me, as personally, what I do, I always tell students about social care. Also, they've done talks and things like that as well, just to try and encourage students to even look into it. But I think it needs to come from a university level as well, and a placement educator level, and some kind of standardized governance, especially prison social care. I mean, it's a new area. There's so much to do. There's so much skills to learn. You're getting involved in all the legal aspects of things. I was speaking to students today as well, saying that it's not just equipment, or it's not just mental health. There's so much to learn within the field as well. And, you can be a trailblazer within social care. That's what I would say. Just, talk a lot.
Katy?
So what I would say is, if I was to promote working in social care, is if you want a role, especially as people are getting older and people are being discharged from hospitals and health settings quicker, more support is being offered at home. If you, as an OT, occupational therapist, want to be able to offer a really therapeutic service and gain and develop those therapeutic relationships, social care is definitely the place to be as an occupational therapist.
Wow, that's a good ending. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm just going to end with some thoughts. I've been sort of scribbling away as you've been talking and trying to find this Gary Kilhofner quote that I wanted to say that I think really links into social care occupational therapy. So I just want to say thank you very much for your time. And these are my ending thoughts. So Gary Kilhofner said, life takes on meaning in the minute-by-minute reality in which we experience ourselves achieving ordinary things. This is the role of occupational therapy in social care, to enable people to continue living in their community and to get on with their everyday life, doing what they need and want to do independently, autonomously. I think occupational therapists are well positioned as a necessary asset in the community, hence in social services, a vital part of the social care professional workforce to enable citizens to get on with their everyday living. And I'll end with Jessica Kenzie's words, a survivor of the Boston Marathon bombing. She sums up that occupational therapy is where science, creativity, and compassion collide. And I think that's true. Hearing you today, that's definitely what I heard. So thank you all for your time.